Hey there, and welcome back to the Goldwing project here. So I've got quite a few parts in paint right now, waiting on powder coat. There's a bit of a delay there, and that includes levers, battery box, and the clamp that goes on the crossover pipe between the two mufflers. So I might actually pull that part back and just rattle can it with some, high temp enamel, just so that this can all continue while I wait on the other parts, because it sounds like those are going to be a little bit longer than anticipated. But today I'd like to go ahead and get the carburetor setup installed, because that is here and all of the intakes have been polished up. So that's the plan for today. Let's take a look at those intakes. And these all turned out really nice. That was quite a few hours of sanding out little scratches and things like that. If you want to see my method for polishing aluminum, check out the video that I posted about that. I'll throw a little card up here. So these are all ready to put on. I've put the O-rings, new O-rings on the bottom with the little dabs of gasket kinch just to hold them in place while everything is getting installed. And I've got the manifold finally. So one issue with this, it's a very loose fit, and that persists even with the clamp tightened all the way down. So what I have to do is use some short sections of inner tube stretched over the end, because it's nice and thick rubber, pretty durable. So this, when stretched over this, makes it a nice snug fit with the intake boots. And that may just be because these are pretty worn out, they're a little dry, and there's not so much flexibility to them. But there's no dry rotting or anything like that, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the inner tube on there. So I need to cut myself some more sections of that, get those installed on there with the clamps, and then I'll be ready to put this with the intakes onto the bike, and we'll have to lower the carburetor down on top of that through the opening where the air box goes, the stock air box. This throttle cable bracket goes on the right side, and I've already got my pieces of inner tube on there, leaving just a little bit hanging over this lip. Keeps these from being pushed back as you install the intake boots. So just be able to slide these into place. Alright, I've got the spark plug wires just disconnected and up and out of the way for now. And just as my luck goes, all of this hardware for the intakes was missing, so I had to order these off the internet. I found these on Fleabay. I got a pretty good deal on them. put that same hardware in on the other side and get that torqued down. Everything's torqued down. The clamps on the boots are all tight. Spark plug wire is back in place. So now it's time to lower the carburetor into place. This is a VW 34 Pick 3. I don't think it was made by EMPI. It was made by some other company. But I have tested the automatic choke on it. That seems to be operating as intended. It did come with the paper gasket and the studs, but it did not come with the nuts and washers, which was irritating. If you're going to include the studs, why not include the nuts and the washers? But we'll just go ahead and lower this guy down into place. Didn't get that gasket in there right. There we go. Sweet. It actually doesn't fit too bad. Didn't have a whole lot of space around it, but neither did the stock setup, so we should work on wiring up our fuel cutoff and the automatic choke, which goes up to the terminal inside the fuse box right there. So it doesn't have far to go. We just need to wire it up. So I made up my ground wire, 2 different size terminal rings and some heat shrink, and the small end goes at the fuse box up here, and the large end will go just on the stud on the back there. So I'm going to go ahead and get that in place. Now I've got ground for the carburetor. I've just got to tighten those 2 nuts down, and I need to make a run to the hardware store to grab another spade terminal. Just my luck, I'm out of that size of spade terminal that I need for the choke and the fuel cutoff. Go ahead and tighten the carburetor down, and I'll make a run to the store. Okay, so I've made my other 2 leads. One of them is going to go, the shorter one is going to go from the positive of the accessory terminal to the electric choke. And this longer one is going to go from that fuel shutoff solenoid multimeter to verify those connections. Everything checks out. Let's go ahead and put this air filter on, just because I'm stoked to see how it looks. There we go. One single carb conversion installed but not yet tested. I think it looks sweet in there. It's a nice fit. Excited to see how it works. So I'm ready to install the exhaust, which isn't going to be easy, so I might not be able to film all of it. It's going to be quite a pain. So with these gaskets, they're copper, and as they heat up and are under pressure, they're going to expand and stay in there quite nicely and make a good seal. But gravity kind of works against you in this case. So a tip I picked up online was just to give it a couple little taps just with your hand against the workbench, and that puts it into just a little bit of an oval shape. It's not even remotely noticeable. It's just enough to keep the gasket in place while the rest of the exhaust is being put in. So there, I've got that one in there. I'll do the same thing on the other four, and then I've got to get the gasket on there, mate the two sides of the pipe. I'll probably leave the clamp loose so I'm able to finagle things into place. So yeah, like I said, not gonna be very easy to film all of it, so I think I'm just gonna work on this off camera, especially since I might need my wife's help. She doesn't like being on camera, so I'll just go ahead and bring you guys back when that's all in place. Just want to let you know what the game plan was. I've got rags covering the center stand on both sides, just because I don't want anything getting scratched up any more than it already is. Well, the exhaust is back on and looking quite good, I might add. Didn't go nearly as difficult as I was expecting, which is good. Everything's just lined up very nicely. Everything's torqued down. Got the bolts in the back here, the exhaust clamp back in there, and then of course the 4 nuts onto the studs here. Now these front 3 on each side you can reach just with an extension, but the back ones on both sides are a little bit more difficult. Now I wanted to show you a tool that I added to my collection a while back. This is a torque adapter for tight reach areas. On one end it's got a 14, on the other end it's got a 12. I'm using the 12, and basically just stick that on there, slap the torque wrench in reverse, and you're able to reach and torque things in very tight spaces when you only have lateral access and you can't get straight on it. So I highly recommend this if you're trying to torque those bolts or anything else in a tight space. This is made by Motion Pro, so I think I got it on Amazon. I'll try to find the link and put that in the description. But so now that the carb installed, exhaust is installed, we're pretty much ready to try test starting it. And I did have one thing that I almost missed earlier, and that's this vacuum advance. I had to get a longer piece of vacuum tubing for that, but that's all in place now. So what I'm going to do is go and steal the gas tank off of my lawnmower, and we'll gravity feed fuel into it, and see how it runs. I know the gas in that tank is no more than a couple weeks old, and we're also going to be running it through a filter just in case. So I'm not going to have the throttle cable installed because the handlebars still have to come off while we're reworking the triple trees and all that, and I've got a new clamp for right here. So we're going to be working without a clutch cable or a throttle cable. Unfortunately, everything's pretty reachable. The throttle's right there, so I have my high hopes, and we'll see if everything works out the way I hope it will. Alright, fuel supply's hooked up, sitting up there on the shelf. I got a shut-off valve. That's just to keep the hose straight. I didn't want to cut it because I don't know what lengths I need of that down here for the final installation. Got my power hooked up, filled the antifreeze, so I'm ready to go. Nervous but excited. So let me pop you in the stand here. I'll open up the garage door the rest of the way and let's see what happens. Well, I did pick up a battery for it. I just filled it with acid. Gotta wait an hour before I can start charging it, and then however long it takes to charge it before I can actually use it. But we're gonna need to install the battery box here, and that's been all freshly powder coated, so it's ready to go in. So let's get that guy mounted in there. There we go. Looks nice. Is it right? That's the question. More concerning this over here and how that's supposed to fit in. I suppose I could see if the cover fits on with it that way. Yeah. So let's see if I can figure out what's supposed to be there, and if I can't find it, then we'll just loop a zip tie around it, keep things from shaking around. Alright, well, it's the next day. The battery's installed, freshly charged and everything. So let's give it a whirl. Well, I finally got it sorted, and this made me even laugh. How long I spent messing with the carburetor, and the problem was I had these two wires flopped. These two spark plug wires. That's why I was only getting backfiring from the left side and not the right side. And now after correcting that, I was able to make the carburetor adjustments according to all the instructions I found online without a problem. So here, check it out. Just fires right up. And from running it, I know that my charging system is working, and my radiator fan is working, my temp gauge is working, my oil light is working. The only thing that is not working now, that was working before, is the light on the tach for the rear suspension air pressure. And I already tried sticking a little bit more air in it, so maybe I bumped a wire when we were putting the exhaust back on. I'll have to dig into that a little bit further. But that's where I'm going to call it for this video. It's running great. So now it's on to rebuilding the front end, doing the brakes, putting the new gauges, headlights, turn signals and everything on, and then moving on to the back. We're going to make sure that the oil is changed in the final drive, rebuild the rear brake system as well, and then after that, tires and paint. You know, the expensive stuff. But that does it for this one. I'm happy as hell to have this thing running finally. Now it's on to the other issues. Anyway, thanks for joining me on the journey. Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video, and I'll catch you next time.